When I was at the archery range the other day, one young lad brought up an interesting argument for the non-existence of God. If he was watching us, he would see a big face in the sky. That was from a 9-year-old who relies too much on the internet. Since he didn't understand the concept of the comedian watching us, I decided not to grind him about it, and hope he would learn to look for information in other places. The internet isn't entirely fine. But I did want to give him the question of what will we be looking for when trying to see God's face. So I thought I would tackle the question that few people seem to want to ask. What is God? In some ways, knowing what a thing is and its provenance makes it easier to understand. With God, however, that's hard to say. We know about him, and we have an idea of his nature, but we can't really nail down what he is in terms of species or genus. So what do we know about God? And what does that tell us about him? We know about his primary aspects, some of which I've gone over in previous videos. He's omniscient, all-knowing and understanding. Omnibenevolent, all-loving for his creations. Omnipresent, being present on earth to all who want him. Omnipotent, using vast powers in effective and practical ways. And transcendent, existing in both heaven and earth, whilst also existing beyond the temporal plane. Just by that list, and it's a short list at that, we can see God has a lot of interesting attributes that defy human expectations. If he walked amongst us today, we would quite possibly call him a superhero. He also does things that we can't understand, and many would condemn without hesitation, because his reasoning doesn't make sense. Strangely enough, the Bible answers that in Isaiah 55, verses 8 to 9. Your thoughts are not my thoughts, nor are my ways your ways. One could say that God is basically telling us, in no uncertain terms, that he is in fact not human. He doesn't think like us, nor does he do things like us. People who try to argue against God end up using human logic, which fails both in terms of scope and the fact we are applying it to someone who isn't human by his own admission. I will cover the scope of this in a later video. But if God isn't human, what is he? That is hard to say, and I know this is going to spark the argument about God being an alien. But he's been around Earth longer than we have, regardless of which source you go by, either the scientific one or the biblical one. So who are we to point fingers, saying, "You're the alien"? We are. This in part explains why we don't understand God. We can't understand what someone else do and how they process information, because they aren't like us and therefore don't think like us. One of the first things I learned in horsemanship was that horses are prey animals and we are predators. This puts a whole different spin on how we react to things and how we talk. We can just about understand horses and dogs. That's because we've been working with them for thousands of years. Some of us still find cats in the street, and wild animals are hard to judge because we can't watch them all the time. If you bear in mind, we think we are the more intelligent animals. I don't think that life comes in stages of awareness. Firstly, situational awareness, what they're like in that situation. That's bacteria and viruses. That's how they respond to their environment, mostly in minor chemical stimuli. Then you have environmental, which is the plants and other great multicellular organisms, who respond to greater changes and grow accordingly. Then you have mobile response, which is pretty much all animals. Then you have cognitive response. That's us humans. We think of things in terms of a timeline. So what's next? God could be the next step. Could be temporal one, celestial, whatever you want to call it. If we struggle to understand animals, we would struggle to understand God. It's hard enough. And just to make things clear, we struggle to understand ourselves sometimes. So how big a difference is there between us and God? We can't understand each other or our cat. Now some people will say, but God spoke to people in the Bible and is speaking to us today. Of those people, I would ask this question. Did you genuinely hear the voice of God? I've told many people the story of how I heard the voice of God. But the simple fact is, it was a lot easier to put it that way than to explain the heartfelt emotions, confusion, and lengthy thought process that went through my head to arrive at the solid conviction that this is what God wants me to do. I never heard a voice, unearthly or otherwise. A pastor once said, when he was trying to gain the gift of prophecy, he had odd words, songs spring into his head that meant absolutely nothing to him, but meant the world to whomever he was prophesying over at the time. Because that God speaks our language. I say he speaks to us in a different way. If we look in the Bible, we see that more often the words of God are conveyed by the prophets, angels, or Christ himself. The few times he does speak in his own voice, his voice is nearly always compared to the sound of a storm, water, thunder, music, which could simply be the sound that is conveying a meaning, the meaning that the words are recording. As a musician, I know how music can convey feelings without uttering a single word. In fact, to demonstrate that, I've got my harmonica. I'm going to play two simple little ditties. This one. That conveys sadness, as it is from a very sad song. Next one. That one conveys happiness, bouncy tune. We can't write down on paper an emotion, an experience, or an idea, but some means of translating it so others can understand. That's why some authors use very florid language in writing things. That's why poets use metaphors and all manner of elaborate words. It's possibly why prophecies are so often extremely vague. Who's to say that God uses words, uses our words for that matter? He can speak directly to us, but why can't he just fill us with thoughts and ideas and let our own minds translate them into a form that others can understand and we can share it? It is said that those who know each other extremely well can effectively communicate without speaking, and sometimes saying nothing can say more than you could ever say with your words, if that makes any sense. We could just be personifying or vocalizing things that we sense from God. We do this all the time with animals, which don't use language in the same way we do, and certainly not the way we'd understand. Horses use their ears and bodies more often than their voices to convey feelings on a certain situation. Same with dogs, cats, and other animals. We often use our language to make it easier to understand when explaining something to people that don't understand what's going on. This example I use is where my old pony used to eat the other horse's feed. She would always barge into the bucket, nick it from the horse, and eat it, and then move on to the next one, until she got to the herd leader, and gave her a look. That look clearly said, "Don't try." And my pony was like, "Okay then," and moved off. Cheeky girl. People will point out that in the Garden of Eden, in Genesis, God walked openly and spoke with Adam and Eve. But this was the start of all things, so it's very unlikely they spoke any sort of language that we would understand. They most certainly didn't speak English. They most likely communicated in ways that they learned from the animals. Thus, they could understand the snake that led them to temptation. Or they could have been speaking with God in the raw way he speaks to us now, communicating feelings and ideas rather than words. So we've established that God isn't human and very rarely uses any form of human communication when he speaks to us. This brings us to a question that many atheists will be asking. Why should we try to listen to him in the first place? One can quite easily point out that he gave us the Ten Commandments, the rules and laws by which we live our good and righteous lives. But there's a whole host of arguments that raise questions about the point of morality. Arguments like, does God make the standard, or does he go by a greater standard? That argument gets thrown back and forth. And even when the opposing point of God being the standard of morality gets put forward, someone will raise the question, is that a good standard to go by? And start bringing up the biblical atrocities that God has done. There's no point denying God has been recorded killing many people throughout biblical history. To name but a few: the flood, the razing of the sister cities, the slaughter of the firstborn, and the defeat of the pursuing Egyptian army. One could argue that it was all for gratification, power moves. Even a brief look at some of the stories, we see references to evil deeds and things that we would consider abhorrent in our modern times. Murdering people for no reason, sexual assault, and slavery. Not things we would consider moral in our times. Since even we can understand the reasoning behind such actions, We don't really have a prosecution stance there. If we bring gratification attacks into this, we have a situation where humanity has no leg to stand on. Many authors have noted that animals rarely kill for gratification. Most entirely kill for food or survival, which are not mutually exclusive. Roald Dahl in particular points out that even the giants don't kill each other. Poisonous snakes, lions, tigers, they don't kill each other. Humans, on the other hand, kill each other practically all the time. Rarely a day goes by without someone being reported shot, stabbed, or otherwise killed by a human. A large part of history can be measured by the tools and methods we use for killing each other. This may sound like I'm ranting, and I am a bit, but this is quantifiable. Someone did a study of God's kill count in the Bible, and the biggest estimate anyone can come up with is 25 million humans. Giving a biblical time frame of, let's say, 4.3 thousand years from the first day of Earth to the end of the New Testament. That is not an inconsiderate number. Humans, on the other hand, have done much worse, according to our own records. Let's start off with World War II. Humans in that war killed 60 million people, maybe more. In World War I, 37 million people died. In the Vietnam War, 3.35 million people. In the American Civil War, 620,000 people died. Only the Second World War could have any implication of being religiously induced. It was most certainly man who carried out the killing. We killed more people in 200 years than God did in half the age of the earth, according to biblical scholars. We are 80 times more destructive than God. Worst of all, we don't always have an excuse for our killings. If we do, it's more often for our own benefit than anything else. We rarely give thought for what is to come, or what will come of it. And that is just human lives. The number of animals we have killed and just left to rot. The number of foxes hunted. The number of great, majestic beasts shot for a photo. It's never been counted, and we never make any use of it. It is much, much more. We are in a mass extinction period, due almost entirely to us and our destructive ways. I've said it once, and I'll continue to say it. Mankind is a bastard. And we have the arrogance to claim we are the superior and most intelligent being on this planet. I'm not alone in this. And there's a fair few people who say they like people but hate humans. God may have blood on his hands, but nowhere near as much as we do. Okay, rant over. It's time to sum up. Considering how destructive humanity is, having a role model as great and powerful as God is a very good idea. He isn't human, but he is humane. More so than most people we could name right now. We may find it hard to understand what he's trying to tell us, but we just need to keep listening. God is something greater than all of us, and therefore it's a good idea to follow him into the light. If you wish to follow us into the light, my friends, please click subscribe below. I'm not planning on making double videos each week. This was a one-off for the coronavirus, and to spread some safe information about it. Next week we'll be back to my usual fun video schedule. I recommend clicking subscribe to follow that, and don't forget to click the notification bell to stay up to date. If you like this, please share this with a friend and give it a thumbs up. I know there are many anti-humans out there. If you have any suggestions for future videos, please leave them in the comments below. I will read them. If you have any suggestions of biblical passages as well that I should study, please leave those in the comments below. Until next time, remember to be humane, if not human. And God be with you.